Hello, Minnesota sports fans. Welcome to my first ever YouTube video. I'm going to start off by talking about the Vikings off-season. Since there's not much to talk about at this time, let's get this inaugural episode started, semi-quoting the immortal Vikings play-by-play announcer Paul Allen, and we're loose. So how was the Vikings off-season? I'm not going to start in any particular order. I'm just going to go down the list of moves, or up the list probably of moves that the Vikings did. A lot has changed. New head coach, new GM. I'm going to talk about each individual move. I won't go into too much depth. This being my first podcast, I wanted just to highlight the offseason so far, give my current grade, get you to give me your grade, and if you could, click the subscribe button down below, hit the like button. I'd appreciate that. Now, let's get started. We released defensive tackle Michael Pierce. He was looking to sign. We offered him less. He's one of the people that we offered less money to stay. He was unsure about the 3-4 defense we were going to go to our base defense with and how he would play in that. It went a long ways into his decision. He decided not to stay. But, I mean, he played well when he wasn't hurt, but I think he only played like 7 games. So, in the past 2 years, the first of his years being he opted out of COVID, which he says he regretted, but because of the information, he was scared because of his asthma. We can understand that. Mason Cole, we let go as a free agent. A lot of people wanted him to stay, be our right guard or be our center, but he went for a higher price tag than the Vikings are willing to go, so we understand why he left. I think we brought equal talent back to compete at the right guard position, so this may be a smart move, letting him go for the amount of money they were going to pay him. We got 2 or 3 players for the amount of money we would have had to pay Mason Cole to stay. Xavier Woods, he had a good season. It was a season for him to prove it, and he proved it, and he signed with the Carolina Panthers, making more money than we were going to afford him. So we can understand how this went. And safety not being a huge priority. Now, at the safety position, we have Harrison Smith, and Bynum is going to probably start the way it is unless we, pick someone up again in free agency or we draft somebody. Tyler Conklin, again, really, really good year. Filled in for Irv Smith Jr., played very well. He proved it here. Made money in the offseason as a free agent. Now he's with the New York Jets. He wanted to stay with the Vikings. All these guys want to stay with the Vikings. I believe it's a destination franchise with the facilities and the ownership. I just, it was sad to see him go, and I think he was sad to go, but now he's a New York Jet. Nick Vigil, I liked him. He had a flash play where he had a 38-yard touchdown, an interception return. He started in 12 of 16 games and had 85 tackles. You know what? You just didn't hear big splash plays other than that, that interception for a touchdown, and being that, was on a bad defense. Well, now he 1 year and out, now he's an Arizona Cardinal. Now, we lost Dakota Dozier. A lot of people celebrated that and cheered on the Chicago Bears when they said they got a bulldozer on their team. So Chicago Bears picked up Dakota Dozier, and Vikings fans celebrated. That's enough to say about him. So Mackenzie Alexander had just a terrible year, unfortunately, at our nickel corner. These are some of the players I'm going to talk about now are still free agents. So Mackenzie Alexander, second stint with the Vikings, didn't play well. He's gone. I'll talk about his replacement later. Anthony Barr, who would be an extremely good fit for this 3-4 defense. He was a monster at UCLA in this defense. Big edge rusher. We drafted him first round. Mike Zimmer's first draft pick. He ran our defense. He had the green dot on his helmet when he was on the field. He started to play well when he was at the end of his end of the season when he was healthy. Sad to see him go. There was just times where he took a month off and you didn't see him, and then he played well. He had splash plays. The big play where he ended up knocking out Aaron Rodgers. We have a lot of good memories with Anthony Barr. He's still out there. Who knows what could happen after the draft? He may be a player that's just going to have to wait. Sheldon Richardson, versatile player. I think he'd probably work out at defensive end in a 3-4 defense because he played defensive end when we needed it in our 4-3. Sheldon Richardson wasn't making much money for the quality of play he gave us. There was a lot of talk about how we'd bring it, amongst fans, how we'd want him back, especially as low a price as we had him in the first place. But he's still a free agent. Everson Griffin. He may have seen his last down as an NFL player. I don't think people want to take the risk on him, but he will always be the sack daddy in our hearts. God bless you, man. Whatever you do the rest of your life, we support you. Deshaun Bauer, defensive end. Didn't play much. Rashad Hill. Just had a down year. He was our swing tackle. He left our right tackle. He lost when Darisaw took over and then got hurt and missed a game. Rashad Hill didn't start at left tackle. So, a lot to say about that. Rashad Hill just fell out of favor. Didn't play well. Luke Stocker. Not much to talk about there at tight end. Chris Herndon, I think his first catch was a touchdown. Yay, but he didn't do much before that or much after that. And we lost our fourth round pick this year to trade for him. It was another Chris Spielman. We lost our tight end. I need to go get a tight end. Let me give a 4th round pick. And then Conklin takes over the position. And we regret giving up the 4th round pick. He wasn't a bad player. He's gonna do good for somebody, but D.D. Westbrook, punt returner. You could have said 4th receiver, I would say. Had some good plays for the Vikings, but he only caught 10 passes for 68 yards. But he was a solid punt returner. I don't think he'll be missed too much. I think we'll replace him fairly well. Chad Beebe re-signed. Wayne Gallman, unrestricted free agent. Greg Joseph signed his contract, signed a tender. Kirk Cousins, big issues with fans. Just half the fans, I don't even say it's half the fans, but the loudest fans wanted Kirk Cousins gone, in some way traded. There was a lot of interest, I'm sure. I don't think there was enough because we didn't trade him, and I think the Vikings were open to it. I think they would have took a reasonable offer. Didn't happen. There wasn't much out there. The draft they're talking about how it's a poor draft for quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins, still Viking. And he signed for less than what people thought he was going to sign for. He said $40 million. And then he didn't. He signed for, roughly 35 for 2 years. 1 year extended. And he helped with the cap situation. And honestly, his receivers applauded it. Kirk Cousins is a quarterback for for the immediate future. We may look to the draft to find a replacement. He will be, I think, 36 by the end of his contract. Jordan Berry re-signed as the punter. Sean Mannion, much to everybody's surprise, is our backup quarterback again. He just holds a good clipboard for Kirk Cousins. We just hope we don't need him. Now, he can be on the sidelines holding a clipboard as the third string quarterback and not even have to be active. So it could still be situations where we have a backup quarterback other than number one backup quarterback other than Sean Mannion. I'm not thinking that's the case, though. I think they expect him to be your backup. Cornerback Ty Smith re-signed. Not much to talk about there. He's cornerback depth. Jordan Hicks, quality player. He meets the blockers head on. He sheds blockers, makes the tackle. He's 29 years old. He still has life left in him. He's going to be great as a second inside linebacker with Kendricks. Great move. I applauded this move. He was a solid pickup considering we were short of linebackers now that we're going to a 3-4. Johnny Munt, tight end. I guess his blocking tight end. There was a play, circulating social media where he shed tackles and it was a long, maybe 35-yard reception. I don't know. It was a big highlight. It was probably his biggest highlight of his NFL career. But we can understand he was with the Rams and knows what Kevin O'Connell is going to do. He can help other players transition to the offense. It made sense, and he didn't cost much money, and we needed tight end depth after losing Conklin. Defensive tackle Harrison Phillips. It was a big replacement for Pierce. Big run stuffer. Smart player. Good technique. Bills Mafia loved him. He was great with the community. Kids loved him. I think he's going to fit in great with Minnesota. I think they're going to gravitate towards a lunch pail type player. And hopefully he stays more available than Pierce was. It was a good signing. It was a good backup decision after Pierce. They decided to release Pierce. They had to sign somebody. We were going to be short defensive tackle. Austin Schlotman. Now, people didn't applaud this move, but it brought in competition for the right guard position. Coaches were familiar with them. He's gonna bring competition and solid enough player, and most likely going to be a backup. Biggest signing is outside linebacker Zadarius Smith. Pro Bowler, 2 seasons. Got hurt last year. Ended up getting healthy enough to come back and play in the playoffs. The perfect player for the edge rusher for the 3-4 defense. It was an awesome move. And the contract is super friendly. I won't get in that on this podcast, on this channel today. But Zadarius Smith, great addition, A+ move. It made the offseason. We needed an edge rusher, and we got one, especially one that was an outside linebacker. Cornerback Patrick Peterson said he wanted to keep playing for the Vikings. His podcast, he kept repeating it all the time. He loves it here. Again, another player treating this like it's a destination. He believes in the Vikings. He believes in the ownership. He apparently just didn't come here for Zimmer. Came here for the environment. He's a team player, and we needed a team player, and God knows we needed depth at cornerback. This next move was probably the unheralded move, but probably one of the most important, is bringing in Chris Reed at offensive guard. He's a solid player. He could possibly play center if we end up needing him to, but I think he's going to be our starting right guard. Played at Minnesota State in Mankato. He's happy to be a Viking. Again, I think it's a destination for him. This is like probably his dream. Come play for the Vikings. It was a great signing. Honestly, he's pretty good graded on his PFS grade. The Chandran Sullivan, another good signing. Mackenzie Alexander didn't play well. Chandran Sullivan has a good record. Good, not great record at the inside cornerback position, nickel position. He's a solid player. Depends on what we end up doing on the draft. He's probably going to be our starter at corner for the nickel. This next move, again, a lot of these are out of order, but Jesse Davis. Miami had a terrible offensive line, and Jesse Davis played right tackle for him. Was horribly graded as a right tackle, but prior to that, he was a pretty decent guard, and that's why we got him, is to compete at guard. He also will be a backup Rashad Hill position where he could be a swing tackle, although probably not a very good one, but Rashad Hill wasn't either. But he's going to try to attempt to be the right guard. Now, if he ends up winning the right guard position and they said, hey, Chris Reed plays center, we may have solved the center guard position. Now, cornerback Nate Hairston, just another depth position. Not much to say there. And then Julian Taylor, a defensive tackle, hasn't played much in his career. There were some flashes of promise, but right now he's just a depth player who, hopefully wanting to make the team. He's had injury history. We'll see what happens with there, but hey, there's more bodies in camp. Need to fill those positions. Less college free agents we have to try to acquire after the draft. But it was another pickup. Now, how do I rate this offseason? We went in needing a guard, most likely a center, unless they can fix our current center situation with Garrett Bradbury. He hasn't shown much. So Vikings fans, we're wanting a new center. We're almost fed up with. We're not going to extend him on his 5th year rookie contract. Right guard was a disaster. Cole filled it. We couldn't re-sign him. We got competition now. I think Reed's going to be just as good as Cole. We'll see what happens there. The draft, who knows what will happen there. But we went in a center, a guard, linebacker situation was dismal because of the loss of free agents. Cornerback, our worst situation we had, thank God Peterson re-signed. And we signed another reasonably good cornerback and then another depth piece to compete. But going into that and the fact that we replaced our defensive tackle, we didn't. It wasn't a huge need, but we replaced our defensive tackle. We have the edge rusher that we needed. We're down an edge rusher, and we needed to be an outside be able to play outside linebacker. We did it. So we filled the D tackle situation. We filled the outside linebacker situation. We provided a stopgap for the cornerback position with Peterson, who's played well last year, even though he had the one interception that he returned for a touchdown in the last game of the season, but still played well. He doesn't move with the best receiver anymore. He stays to one side. So he solidified the linebacker position with our 2 linebacker pickups, the cornerback situation. We need a number 1 cornerback. That's who we're looking for in the first pick of the draft. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, we need, the right guard and center position, obviously. But when we signed Randy Moss, or when we drafted Randy Moss, we had a Jake Reed and a Chris Carter. Did we need a Randy Moss at the time? Turns out we did. We almost went to the Super Bowl. Did we need an Adrian Peterson? We had a 1,000-yard rusher. But when we had Adrian Peterson, that year we almost had 2,000-yard rushers. The only sad part, we didn't make the playoffs. I think we won 8 games, and it's because we didn't start him at the beginning of the season. Much like we didn't start Justin Jefferson at the beginning of the season and missed the playoffs again. We've had a habit in the history of that we don't trust rookies. Rookies don't start. Now that's changed. I believe Kevin O'Connell will start the best player, and I think we resolved that situation. So if the best player is a receiver, don't see a problem with that, especially with the aging Adam Thielen and Justin Jefferson. Maybe looking at a $25 million contract a year because of the crazy contracts that have been going to receivers. A mediocre, not even a guy that didn't even have a 1,000-yard receiving season got $20 million. And Diggs signs for $25. What's Justin Jefferson worth right now? He might be looking at a holdout, demanding a new contract extension. He'll be eligible for a contract extension after 3 years. It wouldn't be a bad idea to draft a receiver early in the draft. If there's one available that we just say, hey, we know this guy's going to be a stud, just like we thought Justin Jefferson, just like we saw Randy Moss. I can see us trying to go after some receiver depth because Thielen's contract, he's not a $20 million receiver, and that's what he's going to be against the cap next year. And Justin Jefferson, I can't see us paying $26, $28, $30 million a year for a receiver. Just think what the fans think about Kirk Cousins making $35. Imagine a receiver making $25 and our quarterback making $35. That's an insane amount of money for 2 positions. But we got to think, this Kwesi is thinking about the future just as much as he's thinking about the present right now. And he's going to take the best player available. And if it's receiver depth, it's receiver depth. Knock me for it, but hey. Now, if you could, go down below, put your grade on what you think the Vikings did. A, B, C, D, F. Add a plus or a minus to it. I don't care. Just go down. I want to see what you guys do. If you have any questions, feel free to ask the questions. I'd love to hear it. Personally, I give us a B plus. And the only reason is because I don't think we got a surefire starting guard. And I don't think we got a surefire replacement for Bradbury if for some reason he can't carry the load like Kevin O'Connell thinks he can. Now, my grade might change after the draft, but right now it's a B plus. The fact that we got Zadarius Smith at edge rusher made it a B plus for me. The fact that we signed the cornerback we needed, Peterson. We added depth at offensive line to have some decent players compete. We saw some value in moving a guy back from right tackle back to offensive guard. We made a lot of smart decisions. Now, this was my first ever episode of Minnesota Sports Talk on YouTube. I've normally been a podcast. Thank you for being part of my first ever episode. Have a great day, and I look forward to speaking to you again. That's it, Minnesota Sports Talk. Your host, David Shelsky. You can follow me on Twitter at Skullworld and at MN Sports Podcast. Have a great day.